Hi you guys, welcome back to the Clean Beauty Code. I'm really excited. We are talking all about eyeshadows today. Eyeshadow palettes. Who is excited? I know I am. So if you're excited, like, subscribe, and let's kind of just jump in and start talking about the palettes because I have a lot to say and I want to kind of get through everything without this being a 45-minute video. Alright, first, let's talk about this palette here. This is the Warm Neutrals palette by Ilia. I mean, are you dying? Because it's amazing. So they also have a cool neutral. So if you're not a warm neutrals person, they do have a cool neutrals palette. This palette is freaking beautiful. It is, oh, it's so good. Let's talk about the mattes first. The mattes are so good. If I had to compare them to anything, I would compare them to the brand Viseart and their mattes, and I'm definitely saying that name wrong, but that's fine. Their mattes are really similar to this. Creamy, lay down beautiful, not chunky, not just perfect, smooth. You don't need a primer with them, which is insane, but I like to wear a primer with all my eyeshadows for day to day anyways, because you never know. It could be a sweaty day, it could be an oily day, so it's just better to wear a primer, but you don't need to wear that with this at all, which is fire. The shimmers here, the more metallic colors, holy guacamole, you guys. I'm gonna put them on my fingers here just so, oh my God, just so you can see. The pigmentation of these is honestly unbelievable. Now, they are very soft and buttery, like so soft and buttery. So you, again, don't need to wear a primer, but if you were going to wear the shimmers and you're gonna wear them all day, definitely wear a primer, just because in the crease, they kind of begin to fade and then it doesn't last as long as you would want it to, but it's an amazing palette. I highly recommend. You honestly wouldn't be disappointed, and this is like a perfect neutral all-rounded palette. And the way that the mirror stays is, look at that, it doesn't fall down or anything. It's like so good. So when you're traveling and you're doing your makeup, it's not gonna be flapping around in the breeze just pissing you off, because that is literally the worst. I love this. All right, what should we talk about next? Okay, let's go into this palette. This is the Honest Beauty palette, and this is the Get It Together eyeshadow palette. Ooh, this is a good palette, but there are definitely some things we need to talk about. So let's take a look. This is the palette. It is honestly one of those perfect neutral day to night palettes where you can kind of create anything with this. Now, the thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the formulation, because when you swatch it, she's chunky. She's chunky. I mean, it is what it is. She's a chunky palette when you swatch it with your hands. However, when you apply it with a brush, which is how you should be using it anyways, it's great. This is a good beginner's palette because it's almost mistake proof. It's honestly idiot proof because it's not super pigmented when you lay it down, which some people might think of as a negative, but I think for a palette like this that you can just go to Target, grab, snatch, and just have it in your bag and create any look, this is great, because if you make a mistake, it's not going to completely ruin your eyeshadow look. What I will say though is, again, because it's chunky, it does have a decent amount of fallout, so that doesn't necessarily bother me, but that is something to know if it bothers you, to not do your foundation first and do your eyeshadow look first if you're going in with these darker colors here. The mattes are beautiful, but again, chunky. These kind of more glittery, shimmery colors, beautiful, but I always apply those with my fingers. Anyone, even in the Ilia palette, I will always apply shimmers, glitters, metallics with my finger because it's the best way to get the pigmentation that you want. You just never get the same effect as when you use a brush with it. You just don't, and it kind of can fly all over the place with any of the more like chunky glitter style ones, but this is great. This is easy to use. You can create some really beautiful like neutral looks here. You have some mauve, purple, a beautiful copper color, and this black is great for an eyeliner. So yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I definitely recommend this if you have maybe someone who's just getting into makeup that's on the younger end. This is great if you have a friend who wants to get into makeup but really doesn't know how, which I feel like everyone has at least a few friends like that, because makeup can be intimidating. This is great because A, it's not a lot of money, and B, again, because it is kind of that mistake proof formula where it's not super pigmented when you lay it down, the person who's using it won't be super intimidated and just stop what they're doing and freak out and just say, I'm not applying eyeshadow. Because sometimes when you're doing your makeup, especially, at least I felt this way when I started really getting into makeup, when I would do my eyeshadow, I'd be like, oh my God, this looks terrible. But really, you gotta wait till the end. Apply your eyeliner, apply your mascara, and then you'll really know what the look will kind of come out as, because sometimes it looks a little crazy before your look is done. But this is great, highly recommend. You can grab it at Target, and again, just be warned that the formulation when you first swatch it isn't great, but again, who cares really how it swatches? If it performs well, it performs well. This I will say you do need a primer with. I wouldn't necessarily wear this without a primer because again, the formulation just needs it, but it's a good palette. Okay. What should I talk about next? All right, I'm going to talk about this palette because this actually did shake me to my knees. That's how shook I was. This is the No BS eyeshadow palette by PYT. Oh, it's beautiful. Just look at her. Look at her. She's beautiful. So this is an amazing palette. I'm going to just kind of walk you through. So you have your mattes kind of at the top and your kind of metallic shimmers at the bottom. It is really good. This color here, this middle brown color, the best transition shade you'll ever have in your entire freaking life. Like honestly, it's so good. I dip into this when I'm doing any makeup look with any other palette. Sometimes I'll just use it on my lid alone because I do like that kind of brown eyeshadow look on my lids. And if I don't have something like this, I'll use a bronzer, but it is so good. You can create this beautiful purple look with this color, a little bit more of a kind of olive green taupe color. It's beautiful. It's a really good color. And then this beautiful just light shimmer color that when you put it on your lid, it's just beautiful alone. And if you are kind of going in with just all the mattes and you just kind of use that on top, it's beautiful. Again, with this, I will apply the metallics with my finger. That's the way I like to apply them. They blend out beautifully. You don't necessarily need to use, again, a primer with these, but again, I always recommend using a primer. I just think it's an easy step. And if you don't have a primer, just use your concealer on your lid and you will have a really snatched eye look. I highly, highly recommend. And they have another 2, 3 palettes like this, and they're really nice, and the formulation is all beautiful in them. Huge fan. Okay, now we have this brand here in front of me. This is Aether Beauty, and this palette, I mean, have you seen anything more beautiful? This is their Summer Solstice palette, and I buckled at the last one at my knees, but I literally had a heart attack of happiness when I saw this, because this is a beautiful palette. Oh my God. The formulation is gorgeous. The mattes are beautiful, the shimmers, the metallics are beautiful. There's not a lot of fallout. You can create a perfect versatile look, like neutrals, perfect neutral look. A jazz of color, a perfect jazz of color, because you have the purples here, you have the more cranberry tones, you have a little bit more of a khaki, greenish kind of look here, olive, you have a gold. I mean, honestly, I've made so many incredible looks with this, and I'm a huge fan. They have a beautiful range of palettes as well. They have awesome, awesome colors. I am a huge fan. Have you ever used this brand before? Have you used any of these palettes? I would love to know, because I feel like it's something that they do have it at Sephora, but I don't really know how aware people are of this brand, whereas I do feel like the other brands, maybe less so PYT, maybe people don't know as much about, but these are all beautiful palettes. With these, you do not necessarily, again, need a primer, but I don't have to say it again. I would just use a primer, don't be nuts. But yeah, huge fan. This palette does not have a mirror. It's the only palette that doesn't have a mirror, and the reason that they don't have a mirror is because they want their palettes to be 100% recyclable. I love that. I think that's great. So that's the only thing. If you are a person who loves to have a mirror in their palette, you won't have one in this, but I think for recycling, that's great. So I'm a huge fan of all of these. Let me know down below, have you tried any of these? If you have, what are your thoughts? Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up this video, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye.